This computer audio. No, I don't want to record, but okay, so it's recording already. All right, so yeah.
Lovely. Well, welcome all. Thank you for joining us today for our Partner With Us series. As a reminder, the Partner With Us series is a series brought to you by Church World Service, and we will be continuing this series for the coming months. As a reminder, this occurs every second Wednesday of the month from 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. Eastern. And again, as a reminder, each of these sessions is aimed to offer a comprehensive exploration of the pressing issues informed by Church World Services expertise, impacted voices in the communities that we serve, faith leaders, various experts in these programs, all to provide actionable insight, strategies, and resources to engage in the work of Church World Service. Throughout this series, we do aim to empower communities to catalyze meaningful and transformational change within their communities. And as we embark on this journey together, we do hope that participants will find that it's more than just a series of sessions. We really are aiming to turn this into an opportunity to turn faith and compassion into transformational change. And during today's session, I really believe there are some great actionable steps to live into that. And with that, we can go ahead and progress to the next slide, please. As a quick introduction, my name is Ted Blessing. I am one of the program coordinators and officers for community engagement. I am joined by a wonderful panel of my colleagues today that I will introduce in a second here. But before doing so, I wanted to touch on the Church World Service mission of us being a faith-based organization transforming communities around the globe through just and sustainable responses to hunger, poverty, displacement, and disaster. Today, we will really be living in that displacement space. Next slide, please. And today we'll be talking new beginnings, understanding resettlement in the United States and the various pathways. I am joined by an incredible panel of colleagues working on the back end and ensuring that this all goes smoothly is Stacy Kleck and Ruben Rojas. And then on the front end and presenting today, we have Mia Whitty, Christine Baer, Derek Feldman, and Kate Makem, and they will introduce themselves as they present. For today's objectives, we are exploring pathways to safety, so gaining an in-depth understanding of all of the diverse pathways through which newcomers arrive in the United States. This includes refugee resettlement, asylum seeking, as well as other avenues. We will also unravel the arrival process, delving into what that looks like, the intricate processes involved in newcomers' arrivals, shedding light on the challenges they face, and the support they require, and that's where you all come in. And then lastly, empowering informed support. So attendees will leave today, hopefully, with the knowledge and insights about the journey that newcomers take, and in that, enabling you all to provide informed and compassionate support, advocacy, and community integration to the folks that we serve. And with that, I'm going to pass off first to our first presenter, Kate Makem, to kick us off here.
Thanks, Ted, and thanks everyone for joining us today. It's a pleasure to be with you. So I'm going to talk a little bit about, I'm Kate Makem. I am the Senior Director for Resettlement and Welcome Services at CWS. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about those pathways to safety that Ted mentioned and how our CWS programs link with those. So we'll start with refugees. Refugees are our major caseload that we're going to talk about today, the individuals that we are serving in a lot of our programs, as well as other immigration statuses. So the term refugee is used in a lot of contexts. There is a very specific U.S. definition of refugee that we are adhering to within our program. And so under U.S. law, a refugee is someone who is located outside of the United States, is of special humanitarian concern to the United States, who demonstrates, and this is key, that they were persecuted or fear persecution due to their race, religion, nationality, political opinion, or membership in a particular social group. They also must not be firmly already resettled in another country and be admissible to the United States. Otherwise, there are no inadmissibility criteria that they're meeting. So that's really key for refugees, is that they're receiving their approval outside of the United States. The refugee resettlement program is a really tightly managed process from identification and referral to the U.S. Refugee Admissions Program, to verifying that the persecution claims or fear of persecution due to race, religion, nationality, political opinion, or membership in a particular social group, moving through background checks for security, for medical screenings, providing cultural orientation overseas, all the way to booking a plane ticket for the individual to come to the United States, for which they will receive a loan that they begin repaying after 6 months, and then being greeted at the airport by folks who are serving in CWS's resettlement programs and the other agencies that provide reception and placement services and Welcome Corps now across the United States. So refugees, once they're arriving, are being served through our reception and placement program, which Mia is going to talk about in much greater detail, and through the new Welcome Corps program, which I'll mention, and then Derek will speak about a bit more as well. They're also being served through our longer term integration services. So our reception and placement program and Welcome Corps program are time limited. And one of the key purposes of these programs is to ensure that folks are on the pathway to self-sufficiency and building great new lives in the United States through an ongoing suite of services that are available to them. So asylum seekers and, when granted, asylees are also being determined based on that. Were they persecuted? Do they fear persecution based on their race, religion, nationality, political opinion, or membership in a particular group, social group? The key difference here between asylum seekers and refugees is that that question is being answered within the United States. So folks who are asylum seekers are coming to the US in a variety of different ways, maybe presenting themselves at the US border, maybe coming as a student, as a tourist, and then once they are here, saying, I have this fear of persecution, I have been persecuted in the country that I am fleeing from, and I need protection and support in the United States. And so that is the key distinction there. CWS offers a range of programming for asylum seekers and asylees once they are granted, including support for the border shelters that are welcoming them upon arrival, to material assistance like blankets and kits. We have a call center where we can field inquiries. Where can I find food in my community? How can I find legal assistance in my community? And we also have a case management pilot project for folks who are in the immigration system and as their claims are being adjudicated. And there will be another session on asylum seekers later in this series. So today we're really focusing on refugee resettlement, but just flagging that that's another population that we're serving. Another pathway that we have been seeing more and more entering into our programming at CWS is folks who are entering with humanitarian parole. And so there are three major groups that have been coming to be served by CWS, or three major pathways where folks are being granted humanitarian parole. So one was through Operation Allies Welcome, and now Operation Enduring Welcome, for those individuals from Afghanistan who were brought to the United States after the United States withdrew from Afghanistan in 2021. And this was the group of tens of thousands of individuals who were housed on military bases for several months while the US created capacity in communities to ensure that they could arrive in community, have a place to stay, have the services available to them to get started in the United States, just as very similar to what refugees receive upon arrival. And we're continuing to serve people from Afghanistan through our longer term integration services as well. The Uniting for Ukraine and Process for Cubans, Haitians, Nicaraguans, and Venezuelans are sponsorship-based programs that are active now. And through these processes, an individual in the United States can file an application for people who are coming from these countries. They may be a family, a friend, or they may be someone that they don't know yet, and say that they are going to be committing to providing those services for individuals upon arrival. And they're also pledging to be their fiscal sponsor. And so CWS and our neighbor network are supporting those groups of individuals who are coming together to do this work and to serve individuals who are coming from Ukraine, Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuelans. And so I'll let Derek go more into depth about that programming. We're also serving individuals from some of these nationalities in our ongoing integration services. And then we do serve a variety of other immigration statuses that represent other pathways to the United States. We're also serving, we have a very long history of serving Cuban and Haitian entrants at CWS. We also serve victims of trafficking in our programs, and we serve individuals from a wide variety of immigration statuses, particularly in our immigration legal services work. Next slide, please. So we're, like Ty said, we're representing our national programs team. We're headquarters folks talking to you today, but we also have local offices and groups of individuals that we're supporting across the United States to implement these programs. So all of our CWS local offices serve newcomers. We have a blend within our resettlement network of CWS offices that are part of the CWS corporate structure. And we also have a number of offices that are independent nonprofit organizations that we partner with in this work, and we've done so for a very long time. The actual programs that are present in each office will vary from place to place, depending on the context needed funding. So what other services are available in the community, what populations are coming to that location, what kind of support is available to provide services in that community. So we're providing a wide range of services. But like I said, today, we're really going to zero in on that refugee resettlement programming. Next slide. So for refugees, taking a bit of a step back, after they're fleeing their country of origin, they have generally 3 options for long-term solutions. And so these are often referred to as durable solutions for refugees. The first, and for many, the ideal is for them to be able to return to the country of origin because it has become safe for them to do so. So they can go back to their lives, back to their families, back to the communities that they've known for their whole lives. And sometimes that is an option, and that's a repatriation option. The second option is to settle into the country that they have fled to, and that would be the local integration option. And sometimes countries will be willing to accept permanently the refugees that are coming from other locations, provide them employment authorization, lawful permanent residence in the location. And then third, where our programs come in, is the resettlement option, resettlement to a third country. And like it says here on this slide, that's an option that's available to very few of the world's refugees. And so we really take we take very seriously our opportunity and our role in providing resettlement services to those individuals who can gain access to this programming. Next slide. So once coming to the United States, I've mentioned these programs already, but we will get into greater depth with them. So the Reception and Placement Program is a decades-old refugee resettlement program in the United States. It's about 40 years old. It's a program developed to provide resettlement services through the first 30 to 90 days after arrival in the United States. Mia's going to talk a lot more about the Reception and Placement Program. The Welcome Corps is a brand new program, which was launched earlier in 2023. And it's a new program that empowers everyday Americans, not professional resettlement agencies, but everyday individuals who want to help to welcome refugees arriving within the U.S. Refugee Admissions Program. And so our neighbor network is supporting the groups of people who want to do this work through the Welcome Corps. There's also a subset of Welcome Corps that I just wanted to mention, which is Welcome Corps on campus. We won't get into great depth on this today, but it's a targeted education sponsorship initiative for colleges and universities in the United States, where it's a new resettlement pathway for students in particular. And I think that's all for me, and I will pass it over to Mia.
Thank you, Kate, and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mia Whitty. I'm the Director of Resettlement for CWS. And as Kate shared, the Reception and Placement, or RNP program, has been established for 43 years. But CWS, as a national resettlement agency, has actually been resettling refugees as far back as World War II, resettling hundreds of thousands of refugees since that time. But since 1980, when the program was formalized by President Jimmy Carter and the Refugee Act, we have the present day U.S. Refugee Admissions Program. And what that means practically is that each year or each fiscal year, the president is setting a refugee admission ceiling, which we commonly think of as a goal for how many refugees we can admit and serve through the Reception and Placement Program that fiscal year. That's done in concert with Congress, with consultations happening, with the Department of State providing a refugee a report to Congress, laying out the priorities of the U.S. refugee admissions program for that preceding year, along with refugee regional targets for how many individuals will likely come from each region of the world. And then practically, how that is implemented is different national resettlement agencies have a contract with the Department of State to administer the reception and placement program. And each of us have local offices or affiliate networks or private groups that we work with all across the country to then provide core resettlement services to each of these newcomers. Next slide. So this year, we are planning on welcoming 125,000 refugees and between 25 and 35,000 special immigrant visa holders. So the SIV visa holders are not included in the refugee admission ceiling target or goal, but they are eligible for R&P services. And each of the national resettlement agencies also plans to provide them services. Those are individuals who are from either Afghanistan or Iraq and worked for the US government for a period of time and are coming on a special immigrant visa. So across the 10 national agencies, we are all collectively approved to serve nearly 150,000 newcomers this year, but we do not yet have the current capacity to welcome all of these individuals. So throughout the year, we're looking for new partners and added capacity so that we can, in fact, achieve this goal. Because even though the refugee admission ceiling is, in fact, set at 125,000 refugees, that doesn't necessarily mean that we will admit 125,000 people. The refugee admission ceiling in 2023 was the same, and we only admitted 60,000 refugees. But with enhancements and processing overseas and a lot of great improvements to the program, it is quite possible that we can resettle over 150,000 newcomers this year. We just need to bring on new partners and bring on that added capacity to make that a reality. So currently, this map is very tiny on the slide, but I will put a link into the chat where this is available online for public viewing. This is a map of the 350 local offices all throughout the country, not necessarily in every state right now, but in almost all of them, where we have partners approved to resettle newcomers through the R&P program. And even if we don't currently have a local office or an affiliate partner doing this work, we are always looking to bring on new partners. And so this is an ever-changing map that will likely have quite a few more dots in the months ahead. So the key objective of the R&P program is to provide core resettlement services, which include a long list of services to newcomers. But really, in general, that includes everything from picking them up from the airport, making sure that we have housing arranged for them, making sure that's fully furnished, providing them with cultural orientation to their new life in the United States. If they have children, enrolling their children in school, helping to assist them with connecting them to employment services and health services, and the like. So each of these partners on the map and as part of our networks, they are working with various community stakeholders to develop plans annually to confirm how many newcomers they can serve each year. So they're doing that in concert with various community stakeholders, and each of those locations and each of those partners has to be approved by the Department of State and others to resettle a specific number of refugees. So then throughout the year, as they do welcome those individuals, they are serving those partners for between 30 and 90 days through the R&P program, and then hopefully engaging them in additional programming thereafter, as Kate mentioned. But the funding that we receive from the Department of State to provide those core resettlement services is only $1,325 per person. So that is very limited. We either provide that to the clients on their behalf, or directly rather, or spend that funding to them on their behalf to provide all their basic needs. Next slide. So who is coming through the program? In 2023, we resettled refugees of over 70 nationalities. The majority of these individuals were from the continent of Africa. This is ever changing. This year, we're anticipating that refugee admissions from Latin and Central America will actually exceed refugee admissions from Africa. But last year, the majority of refugees were coming from the Democratic Republic of Congo, Syria, Afghanistan, Burma, Guatemala, and Sudan. The majority of refugees and special immigrant visa holders who come through the program do have friends and family already here in the United States who they have requested to be resettled with. And so their placement or resettlement location is predetermined. We do the best we can to make sure that they are reunited with their loved ones. But for about the 25% of individuals who do not have a US tie or a person that they have requested to join, CWS is reviewing their biographical information and making a placement decision based on the knowledge that we have of where they might be best resettled. So looking at what languages they speak, any medical needs that they might have, how many individuals are in their family, what housing is affordable in different communities across the country where we have partners, and whether there are any established communities that we are aware of individuals of their background. So last year, we resettled just over 9,600 newcomers in 42 cities and towns throughout the country. And this year, in 2024, we are expecting to resettle close to 15,000 newcomers with our growing network. And I think now I'll hand to Derek to go over the neighbor network.
Thanks, Mia. And thank you again for having me here. Yeah, speaking about the CWS neighbor network. So as Mia just outlined, the sort of regular reception and placement, majority of refugee resettlement. There's also private sponsorship pathways that are relatively new. We provide support through our neighbor network to individuals and groups that have formed to welcome newcomers through these new pathways of private sponsorship. And we do that through providing technical assistance. We provide resources, help with any of those resources that may be required for service delivery, which looks very similar to what Mia was describing for RNP. Things like welcome at the airport and cultural orientation and school registration for kids and those kinds of things, applications for benefits and things like that, providing that extra support to those groups as they navigate providing those services in their communities. We also help with the application process for these private sponsor pathways, and as well as sort of being a contact person and someone who can help troubleshoot and help problem solve as things arrive. We do that through Welcome Corps and through humanitarian parole pathways. CWS is an approved private sponsor organization through Welcome Corps, both for the current sort of phase, which is called a matching phase, where people are welcoming newcomers who they have no prior relationship with or anything like that. So they're welcoming people in need through the refugee pipeline, as well as the next phase or another phase that is coming, which is the naming phase, where individuals can specifically point to refugees that perhaps they're related to in some way, or perhaps they've had some sort of relationship in the past, and want to specifically name those people to be able to welcome them here through the Welcome Corps path. We have both the sort of Welcome Corps, or the neighbor network helps with Welcome Corps private sponsor groups, as well as humanitarian parole sponsor groups for Uniting for Ukraine and Cuban, Haitian, Nicaraguan, and Venezuelan newcomers as well. And sort of as a general, also we're also exploring some possible opportunities to expand this to support asylum seekers and other populations who may not qualify for it or our funding and things like that. We also will sort of do a deeper dive a bit, I believe, in December at the next meeting, where we'll really dive into in more depth of what the Neighbor Network does and how to get involved and that kind of thing to answer questions. That's it. I'll pass it on. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for speaking about the Neighbor Network, Derek. Now I get to speak about just, I think, what brings us down to kind of our actionable local level items. What are we talking about today? What impact does this make in your life? And how do you then take this topic, this conversation, and apply it readily towards welcoming newcomers? As Kate shared earlier, only 1% of the world's refugees are able to be resettled around the world, and some are making their way to the United States. Some are partnered with CWS, with the CWS network offices across the country. And right now on a Wednesday afternoon across the CWS network, there are caseworkers meeting a newly arrived family at the airport, welcoming them to their new community for the first time. There is a employment specialist sitting down with a newcomer, making a plan for some job applications. There's a newcomer going to their first day on the job. There are some kids going to their very first day at school in the United States. And there are just hundreds and thousands of community members partnering with the CWS staff across the network in order to be bridges, ambassadors of welcome in their cities, and just friendly neighbors. Familiar faces that make a recurrence in the lives of these newcomers, and are saying, we are going to partner with CWS, and we're going to do that in this way in order to go ahead and make a difference in the life of a newcomer who's just arriving to your community. So I have a few slides that are going to go over some very specific action items, and then at the very end, right before we take some Q&A time, I'm actually going to share a resource that we are going to be able to email out to everybody so that you're going to be able to follow each of the tasks that I'm sharing and find how you initiate them on your own in your community. So sometimes it can be really challenging. Thank you so much. Sometimes it can be challenging to hear the statistics, to hear the stories, to just watch the news and feel kind of paralyzed in that moment and feel like, well, what can I do here? And I think that in the many different ways to get involved with CWS, there's an entry point for everybody. There's something here that you might see on the screen, or you might see in the takeaway paper that you're going to be able to say, this is definitely something that I can do. This might be something that your family can do, or maybe it's something that your faith community or your group of friends that goes walking in the morning or your book club will be able to go ahead and actionably do with CWS to welcome newcomers. So the first item here is donate. Of course, absolutely, there are so many ways that dollars make a difference in this work across the network. CWS, we're going to have a link shared later to the CWS Global donation page, which you'd be able to designate to immigrants and refugees and donate to CWS's work across the entire network, across the entire country with the reception and placement program. But also, we're going to encourage you, we're going to link directly to the map and list of CWS network sites so that you can say, hey, I'm located in this area of California. Who is closest to me in the CWS network, and what can I do to help that office out, particularly with donations? And I also want to stress here, their in-kind donation support, so the actual physical items, are of great benefit too. I used to work at a local CWS office, and organizing the donation hub with welcome kits that would come in, with baby blankets that would come in, with shampoo, towels, and be able to take those items and then put it in a van and deliver them directly to a newcomer family is absolutely phenomenal. And it's something that people can put together donation drives throughout the holiday season for your faith. But then also it's sometimes a family would go ahead and say, we decided to go ahead and collect winter gear for the newly arrived refugee families, and then go ahead and drop it off at their closest office. So you can start to see that there's many creative ways that you can intersect here in this issue, and it starts to become more localized. You start to be able to see that you read an intense news article and you empathize, and then you say, I can do something here at home to make a difference in this topic, in this issue. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, participate. This is the actual action right there, participating alongside of CWS Network offices to volunteer face-to-face with refugee newcomers. And there are a lot of words up on the screen. There are many different ways that you can get involved in person with refugee newcomers. And I'm going to highlight them here, but then also just to say again that handout, you're going to be able to be directed straight to web pages and other resources that are going to answer much more in-depth questions about how to become a remote placement community partner, how to become a co-sponsor with a local site, how to become a neighbor network sponsor organization. So, you know, everything on this page is a way to step into a physical presence. Maybe you are going to, you are a part of an organization that is in a location where there isn't a CWS network site, or there is no other resettlement agency, and you're saying, okay, but I really want to get involved in this conversation, and you might want to open a remote placement community partnership with CWS. So that might be an avenue you go down. Or maybe you are close to a CWS network site, and you know that your small group that meets every Wednesday is able to become a co-sponsor for a newly arrived Congolese family. Or you're able to go into the office and volunteer for the men's group each week, or the women's group each week. Then the neighbor network, which Derek already explained, is, you know, those really you know, involved groups that are saying, we're going to welcome through the private sponsorship program with CWS. And last here, if you know, we all have workplaces. Maybe you own a business, or you're on a committee in your business. Maybe you're on your fund committee, or you're tasked with a holiday activity for your workplace, and you want to involve in some way CWS work with refugees in your workplace. We have options and opportunities for you to go ahead and be creative in that way as well. Hosting information events in your workplace. Maybe you're going to host a lunch and learn for employees, or you're going to do a donation drive there in the office. Also, we want to go ahead and give a shout out to all of those companies and organizations that hire refugees, and put that out here that always there is a need and a desire to connect with employers across the country, no matter where they're located, in order to hire newcomers. Let's go to the next page. Okay, advocate. So there is absolutely the need for people to be vocal about why they welcome. Why are you welcoming newcomers to your community? How has that impacted you? You know, what are you going to do to make your community an even more welcoming place? CWS keeps communities informed through a wonderful resource called Action Alerts. They're all shared on our website, which will be once again linked in the document we're handing out. But you can subscribe to the action alerts as well, so that they drop into your mailbox, your email box, as they're coming out. So you can stay right kind of on the cutting edge of where CWS is saying, you know, hey, there's this urgent need to advocate for, you know, this population, or this measure that's this bill that's coming up. And here are some very specific ways that you can get involved. We also, in our document, and just that's going to come up in the screen in a little bit, share some newsletters that you can subscribe to as well, so that you are keeping you know, your fingers to the pulse of what's happening across the CWS network, and what are the most urgent needs that we know of, and ways that you can lean into these ways to get involved with us. We can go to the next slide. So here is that document. So this is going to land in your inboxes, and you can go ahead and share these with others that you know would be interested in this material, but maybe they didn't subscribe to today's presentation. Each of these, the underlined text on this document is going to be a link to more information. A link to you being able to sign up for the newsletter, a link to you being able to get information about that closest local office, a link for you to be able to donate. So you're going to be able to take this document and actually follow the steps in order to partner with us as we're welcoming refugees. And then that very last point, the yellow box down at the bottom, our partner section, is for those organizations, businesses, faith partners, as well as you're working on how to integrate the topic of forced migration and welcoming refugees into your business and your culture of giving back at this time of the year. You can go ahead and reach out to refugeeswelcome@cwsglobal.org in order to creatively explore ways to pull this into your workplace. So I know that I tend to talk fast, and we're putting all this information out there for you today. We want to go ahead and transition now into a time of question and answer, and just acknowledge that this is a topic that we could be discussing for hours. There are entire programs on forced migration that academic institutions go ahead and untangle. What does it mean to be a refugee? What does it mean to be an asylum seeker, and the services that they're provided once they resettle into a new community? So we really want to just leave a time to direct questions and see, as participants of this session, where are you most interested in taking this time with us? But thank you so much for just bearing with us and for listening and exploring this topic together. If you have a question, I don't know, Ted, if you wanted to give any more details, but I do believe that you can drop questions into chat. Do you invite people to unmute as well, Ted?
Yes, you are also able to unmute as well, so feel free to do so if you would like. And we have had one question already from Nancy. She did ask, what time of the year does this goal in ceiling get set for refugee admissions? And Mia went ahead and answered there too. This tends to be set and consulted on in September, and ideally finalized before the next fiscal year, which for us begins on October 1st. And if not, refugee admissions are paused until that determination is signed. With that, feel free to throw any questions in the chat or unmute. I believe someone unmuted though, so go for it.
Hello, I am Jansen from Bloomington, Indiana. We have worked with Exodus to bring in a family of 6 through a co-sponsorship with them. We are now interested in the naming opportunity to bring family members of our family to Bloomington. And I'm wondering what is the best process by which we might be able to utilize that opportunity.
I'll unmute here for a second. Thank you, for your interest. I will add in the chat here a couple of things. I'll add my email address where you can email me directly, and I can make sure that you're on the wait list. So for the naming phase of Welcome Corps, it has not been officially announced yet. The only sort of timeline that we've been given is that it will begin before the end of the year. So we only have about a month and a half left of the year. So at some point soon, but that's all we know until it's been officially announced. Right now, we can just put you on a wait list, and we can also kind of get started also in thinking about what are some preparatory type things that you can start to do before the actual portal opens up. So I'll add that to the chat here, but thank you for asking that question.
And
Thank
also
you.
Just that on the CWS communications team, we have 2 Bloomington alumni, so we'll be happy to keep you on our short list.
Thank you.
We have a question in the chat from Nancy. Is some of your welcome work done outside of the US and at critical borders?
I can feel some of that a little bit. I can start to feel it. And that's, yeah, CWS has serves refugees and migrants across the globe in many different countries and many different locations, including in Latin America and the Caribbean. And I know that there will be additional partner with us sessions on that work. So I encourage you to join for those where they can give you a lot more specific information. But the short answer is yes.
And Linda, it looks like you have your hand raised, so feel free.
I do. I finally found it. Thank you very much for this. I've been working with a team accompanying an Afghan family. They have received their asylum, and now the push is to take the next step. And I'm wondering, the letter that they received said that they could apply for asylum in 6 months, I believe, but they're asking every day, telling me, no, they can start now. What is the rule on this?
Linda, I think that the best thing for us to do to answer that question is to take your information down and connect you with our legal services staff to ensure that we're answering your question completely and accurately.
All right, thank you.
You can write to
me. You have me as a registrant in the webinar, so can you pull it from there, or do you want it in the chat?
Why don't I put my email in the chat and I'll connect you with someone.
All right, I have another question if I can take a minute more. We are also working with a Palestinian who has applied for asylum, came as a student a year ago and applied for asylum. Do you see any movement on asylum being granted to Palestinians now?
That's another question that we would need to defer because as we're all working really closely in the resettlement piece of it, there are limitations on our asylum kind of insight.
Okay, thanks, Kate.
Other questions, feel free to, again, to throw anything in the chat or to go off mute. This is an open floor opportunity. And we have some of the greatest minds at Church World Service all on this call, so please utilize this time. It's a wealth of knowledge here.
I have a question. I wonder at how, and I might have missed this because I came in a little bit late, but those of you who shared with us, thanks for sharing. Just wondering how long you have been involved in work with refugees and why maybe you felt like it was important to dedicate your work and your time to this kind of work.
Let's round table this super quick. Let's go Kate, Mia, Christine, Derek.
Great, thanks for the question. So I've been working in refugee resettlement since 2004, and for a little bit before that as a college intern. So it's getting to be quite a decade plus. And I think I initially became interested in this work. I have a family background in the United States through as refugees myself. And kind of grew up with that knowledge, and really just have so much gratitude that this could be any of us, right? We're so fortunate here in the United States, and so if we're given the opportunity to help to make folks who've really gone through very difficult circumstances their transition to life in the United States easier, it's a really wonderful thing to be a part of.
Yes, thank you for the question. So I have been working in refugee resettlement with CWS nearly 10 years, and then with another national resettlement agency for 5. So going into 15 years, I can tell you I've met a lot of people in the US refugee admissions program that started, 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago and never left the program. I think that's really a constant with our work, is that once you start supporting the US refugee admissions program, it's really hard to leave because it's just so wonderful to support on a day-to-day basis. But personally, what really drew me in my first year was attending the weekly allocation meetings that the Department of State holds, where you select refugee cases to eventually resettle. And just seeing those stories and the biographical details of family reunification cases in particular was just so special to know that you had one tiny part in making a family reunite with each other.
I started with CWS 9 years ago, and really what I just feel like there's so many different ways I could answer this question. But when I was, working at the local office level, something that Mia just mentioned, family reunification, it is just so one of those moments in my life where I didn't have any words, was being part of a family reunification effort, and seeing family being able to reunite with one another after being separated for so long. And I think that, myself being somebody who does watch the news and get overwhelmed, realizing the ways in which my career and my actions in everyday life can impact kind of a larger picture, really has been something that keeps me going throughout these years.
And I'll just add, my name is Chris Plummer. I'm the director of media at CWS, based here in Colorado, but I used to be in the New York office. I've been with CWS for 5 years. Before that, I was with Human Rights First for 7 years, working in asylum and refugee issues. And really, when it comes down to it, I do not work in the case management or the direct services that a lot of you are providing. But I will say that just engaging with the stories that I've heard from who we serve has influenced so many people on both sides of the aisle to actually support things that we're advocating for. So just engaging, hearing stories, telling each other about them, I think is wildly important, even if it's just around fundraising or just throwing your vote behind something. I think it's wildly important to be involved in, and that's why I'm still here today.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll just add, I've been with CWS or a CWS affiliate at the local office in refugee resettlement for about 6 or 7 years now. Previously, just worked in nonprofits addressing issues of poverty. And so that was partly where I started connecting with refugee resettlement. But what sort of kept me in refugee resettlement, I had the opportunity to work with community members, to work with groups, local churches, synagogues, mosques, other non-religiously affiliated groups who really got to facilitate and see the connection and the true welcome and just generosity that was offered, and I felt our community just a better place. And so I was honored to get to facilitate that.
Lovely, great question. Any other questions? We have about 10 minutes left here with this great, wildly talented and passionate group of panelists. Any questions for them in these last 10 minutes? Again, feel free to unmute or throw it in the chat.
Hi, Leah Tripp here, Media Associate with the CWS Comms team. This is not a question, but it is an opportunity for collaboration. Our communications team is offering media trainings coming up for anyone who's interested in learning to talk more to press or uplift those great stories that you all get to hear. It doesn't really matter what capacity you work with CWS. If you get to hear stories, then we are interested in letting you uplift your voice. So I'm going to put the media inbox email in the chat here. And if you are interested in a media training, or anyone in your office is interested in a media training, please let us know. We would love to do that for you.
Thank you, Leah.
I'm Karen Smith, and I'm an ESL teacher. And I have some students from Nicaragua who have university degrees and they're doing menial jobs. Is there any good in writing to the senators and such to try to get them to push something through, or does it do any good? No comments?
No, I'm sorry. I do have a comment. We did just put that email in the chat. Feel free to write us. We do have resources that we can share with you that we can actually work with you to amend to your particular situation, especially when it comes to Nicaraguans and others. Just let us know. But media@cwsglobal.org, we'd be happy to help you out.
Thank you very much.
I would also just add, because you had mentioned it specifically, that they actually had some higher degrees, but aren't able to utilize those at the moment, that they're doing other jobs that might not require that kind of level of education. That there's another organization called Upwardly Global that specializes in helping refugees and immigrants who to sort of be able to utilize some of those higher degrees to make sure that they find accreditation and things like that, or when records have been lost and things like that, obviously due to being displaced. So anyway, just would offer that as well as a specific thing to look into.
And we will leave the floor open for just another few seconds in case there are any last minute questions here before we close out this session. And if not, a friendly reminder that our next session will be held in December, on December 13th. The topic of that is cultivating communities of inclusion for newcomers. If you are not registered for that, a link is being dropped in the chat right now that you can register, as well as that title there. Sorry that the link is a little long there. My apologies. Feel free to register for those, and then there is an extensive list of all sessions going forward. Just a reminder that this Partner With Us series will extend all the way into December of 2024. So lots of great topics that are covering a lot of the programs and conversations that we had here today. So feel free to register for those. We hope to have you there. Any last minute items or points of consideration from our panel? Lovely. Well, again, thank you all so much for joining us today and for the great conversation following. If you have any questions, please reach out. I will throw an email in the chat as well. That's sort of our catch-all if you would like to reach out to us that way. Otherwise, we are thrilled that you joined us today and hope that we see you all engaged in one of these spaces in this next fiscal year. We know that we would love to have you. So with that, we will go ahead and close out this session and end the recording. Thank you all.